This is your very last chapter of the year. We'll do half of the vocabulary in this video, and I'll switch back and forth between showing you the textbook and talking about the vocabulary, and then I'll switch over to the vocab sheet where I have the words written out ahead of time just so it would make the video go a little quicker. When I switch over to the vocab sheet, you'll just pause, write your words down, and then hit play again. So the topic of this is la voiture, the car. We'll get a little bit more specific about different types of car. First we have un camion right here, a truck. The sentence says le conducteur conduit le camion. So we have a whole bunch of vocab words in the sentence right here. Le conducteur or la conductrice is a driver. Conduit is the conjugation of conduire, the verb to drive. And then le camion, the truck. So the driver drives the truck. Une voiture de sport is a sports car. Sentence says Renault et Peugeot sont deux marques françaises. So marque is the vocab word, and that means a brand, like a car brand, a car make in this case. So Renault and Peugeot are to France, what Ford and Chevy are to the United States. Then we have une moto, a motorcycle, which is similar to, over to the right, un vélomoteur. That would be more like a moped or a lightweight motorcycle. It wouldn't be as powerful, it wouldn't go as fast. And accélérer is the verb here, to accelerate, to go faster. And un casque, a helmet. All right, so that's the first section of the vocabulary. So we'll switch over to the vocab sheet. Here are the words that I just talked about. Pause and write those down. Okay, we'll go back to the textbook. The next section here, this is about learning how to drive. So we're starting off with mettre le contact, which is more like the expression to make contact. You're putting une clé, a key, into the ignition, and mettre le contact, to make contact, is when you're starting the car. It's igniting the ignition. So mettre le contact, to start the car. It's not a direct translation, but that's the equivalent expression for what it means in English. Une ceinture de sécurité, that's a repeat vocab word we've seen before. That's a seat belt, literally a belt of security. Une décapotable is a convertible. And un conducteur we saw up above. They also say un automobiliste for a driver. It's not as common, so you only have un conducteur on your vocab sheet. Une auto-école, driving school, driver's ed. And le jeune homme prend des leçons de conduite. The young man is taking driving lessons. And il apprend à se garer. He's learning to park, so he's parallel parking right there. Switch over to the vocabulary. So that is these words right here. Permis de conduire didn't show up. There was a picture of the permis de conduire, but it didn't have the words on the page, so that's your driver's license. And I'm going to scroll down to the verbs that were in this section. That's these four. I missed the verbs in the first part. Okay, back to the textbook. All right, we've got some more words here. So une conductrice, the feminine form of conducteur, or une automobiliste, but stick with conducteur, conductrice. You can see sort of from this picture, she's approaching an intersection. So ralentir is the verb there, to slow down. When you need to slow down, you're going to freiner, put your foot on the brake pedal. You might notice in that picture that there are 3 pedals. Most in Europe, a lot more vehicles than in the United States are going to be manual transmissions, a 5-speed, with a gas pedal, brake pedal, and a 3rd pedal for the clutch. Sentences over here say la conductrice freine. So 2 words we've seen before. The driver brakes. Elle freine parce qu'elle veut s'arrêter. She brakes because she wants to stop. So s'arrêter is your verb to stop. And then the last word on this page, brake, is the type of car. That would be a hatchback. One thing you'll notice in Europe is your vehicles are a lot smaller than they are in the United States, and that's partly because gas is a lot more expensive. And gas is more expensive because the government puts a higher gas tax on the gasoline. So the cost of gas is basically the same worldwide, the gasoline itself, but different governments choose to add more taxes on it when they want to discourage driving. So in Europe, you've got a great public transit system. So you've got countries that want to promote the public transit, a more environmentally friendly way of getting around. Driving is very polluting, so the government's put a lot more tax on the gasoline to discourage people from driving. So what that happens is or what will happen is in the United States right now, gas is around $3 a gallon, a little bit under. I haven't looked at any statistics recently, but you have to convert dollars and euros and gallons and liters. But gas is probably between the $5 and $6 per gallon range because of those taxes. So you're going to find a lot of smaller vehicles, these hatchbacks. You're not going to see people driving around in pickup trucks. And I'll switch over to the vocabulary. So that is, you've got the verb ralentir, to slow down, and these verbs right here. And then you only had the break, hatchback, from that section. All right, last bit of vocabulary. We're going to la station-service, the gas station or the service station. It might be where you go to get gasoline or to get your car repaired. It can be both. So we've got the woman in the driver's seat telling her husband. This is sort of the definition of backseat driver, right? The person who's not doing the driving, telling the driver how to drive. So in this case, she's saying, le réservoir est vide. Two vocab words there. Le réservoir, the gas tank, est vide, is empty. The gas tank is empty. So she's telling him, she's not the one doing the driving, but she's telling him what he needs to do. The gas tank is empty. Tu ne veux pas tomber en panne. You don't want to break down. You don't want to have a breakdown because you run out of gas. À ta place, je ferai le plein. So faire le plein with the infinitive, faire, verb that we're very familiar with. So faire le plein, to fill up the gas tank. Literally, it's like saying to make it full. This is conjugated as ferai right now. You might notice that that looks a lot like the future tense, and it does, except that instead of ai at the ending, it's ais. This is the conditional verb tense. This is our last verb tense that we need to do. And the conditional is for what you would do. So in your place, or if I were you, I would fill it. I would fill the gas tank. Over to the right, de l'essence, gasoline. Le pare-brise, the windshield. Le pompiste would be an employee at the gas station, somebody who works there. And it says, le pompiste a vérifié la pression des pneus. So la pression would be pressure. In this case, it means specifically to air pressure in des pneus, the tires. So you're going to notice French in a word like that, des pneus, is going to pronounce the P. Well, we wouldn't pronounce that in English. So that's the same root word as words like pneumatic and pneumonia that sound like start with a silent P in English, but you'll pronounce that P in French. Il met de l'air dans les pneus. He's putting air in the tires. And over to this one right here, vérifier les niveaux d'huile et d'eau, to verify the levels. I didn't put niveau on your vocab sheet. The levels is not a word that's high frequency. D'huile et d'eau. Now we saw l'huile d'olive for olive oil. So now we're still talking oil, but this time we're talking motor oil as opposed to olive oil. So he's verifying the levels of oil, motor oil, and water. Water for the radiator. In the coffre, in the trunk of the car, we have une roue de secours. Now, in English, we call it a spare tire, but we just saw that pneu over here is the word for tire, and we're calling it une roue de secours. So une roue by itself is a wheel. When you think about it, a spare tire really isn't just the tire, it's the tire mounted on the wheel, and when you change your tire, you're really changing out the whole wheel. You're taking off the wheel and putting on a new wheel that has a tire on it. So the French term is a more accurate term. You can call it a spare tire because that's the equivalent term that we use in English. It's just not really an accurate term. But I wrote spare tire on the vocab sheet and also spare wheel. Un pneu à plat. You can tell from this picture that this is a flat tire. And faire le plein, to fill the gas tank. I believe that's all the words. So we'll go over to the vocab sheet. Here are the rest of the nouns. And then here are the rest of the verbs. And it goes on to the next page with the adjectives. Vide is empty. Let's go ahead and submit your vocab sheet when you're all set.